Before I share this unbelievable story with you, I have a small request. If you love true-to-life emotional stories filled with drama, lessons, and unexpected twists, then please subscribe to this channel, hit the like button, and don't forget to share this video with friends who enjoy stories like this. Your support means the world. It helps us bring you more powerful stories every week. Now let's dive into tonight's tale. It all began on what was supposed to be a simple family dinner. Daniel, a hard-working man who always tried to keep peace in his marriage, was looking forward to spending the evening with his wife, Sophia, and her family. The table was set, laughter floated through the room, and for a brief moment everything felt warm and perfect. But little did Daniel know, this dinner would change his life forever. Daniel had spent the entire afternoon helping Sophia prepare for the dinner. She had invited her parents, her younger brother Ethan, and her elder sister Clara, along with her husband. The dining table was decorated beautifully. Candles flickered. The aroma of roasted chicken and freshly baked bread filled the air, and soft chatter created a sense of warmth. Daniel, though exhausted from a long week at work, felt a quiet satisfaction. He believed evenings like this strengthened family bonds, and he was eager to see everyone relax, share stories, and laugh together. For him, family dinners were about unity, about reminding each other that love and respect mattered more than anything else. As everyone settled into their seats, Daniel exchanged small smiles with Ethan and Clara. Even Sophia seemed cheerful, pouring glasses of juice and offering food around. Her laughter rang out as she complimented her sister's new dress, and Daniel thought, maybe tonight will be different. He didn't know that behind her smile, Sophia was hiding something, an agenda that had nothing to do with food or family togetherness. To her, this dinner wasn't about bonding. It was about creating a stage where she could stand in the spotlight, not to toast her marriage, but to tear her husband down. Daniel had no idea that every laugh, every kind word from her was merely the calm before the storm. Halfway through the meal, when plates were half filled and the conversation had drifted from childhood stories to light-hearted jokes, Sophia suddenly placed her fork down with a sharp clink. The sound echoed louder than it should have, pulling every eye to her. Daniel, sipping water, assumed she was about to make a cheerful toast. He expected a simple, "Thank you for coming," or perhaps some playful remark about Ethan's constant late-night gaming habits. But her expression didn't match the festive setting. Her lips tightened, and her eyes locked on Daniel with a cold intensity that sent a ripple of unease through him. She cleared her throat. "You know," she began slowly, "it's funny how people can look perfect from the outside, but be completely different at home." The room grew quieter. Clara shifted in her chair, while their mother's smile faltered slightly. Sophia leaned forward, voice dripping with bitterness. "Daniel here loves to play the role of the good husband, but let me tell you how it really is. He forgets anniversaries, he stays late at work without explanation, and half the time, he doesn't even remember what I asked him to buy from the store." Daniel blinked, stunned. For a moment, he chuckled nervously, waiting for her to reveal a punchline. But there was no laughter in her eyes. Her tone sharpened with every word, like knives being drawn across the table. "And don't even get me started on chores," she continued, "leaving dishes piled up, laundry untouched, sometimes acting as if the whole house is my responsibility. Tell me, is that what a loving husband does?" Ethan shifted uncomfortably, glancing at Daniel with pity. Their mother pressed her napkin to her lips, clearly uneasy. But Sophia was relentless. "I've tried to be patient. I've tried to pretend everything is fine. But tonight, I think my family deserves to know the truth. The man I married is careless, thoughtless, and far from the partner I dreamed of." Daniel's chest tightened. This wasn't a joke, and it wasn't a passing complaint. It was a deliberate, Attack, one she had been waiting to unleash at the perfect moment. The laughter that once filled the room had vanished, replaced by silence so heavy it pressed against Daniel's skin. Daniel sat frozen in his chair, his fork idle on the plate. Each word Sophia spat out felt heavier than the last, striking him not just as insults, but as deliberate wounds aimed straight at his pride. Sophia wasn't stopping. Her voice grew louder, sharper, as though she was performing on a stage rather than speaking at a family dinner. "And do you all know," she sneered, "that Daniel once forgot my birthday? My birthday? I had to remind him myself, and still he brought home the wrong cake. Imagine being married to someone so careless, so unloving." Clara shifted uneasily, muttering, "Sophia, maybe this isn't the right time." But Sophia cut her off. "No, Clara, this is the right time. Everyone sees Daniel as some hard-working, dependable man. Well, I think the truth deserves to be told. He hides behind his job, stays out late, and leaves me to fend for myself. Does that sound like a husband worth respecting?" Her words hung like poison in the air. Ethan pushed peas around his plate nervously, avoiding Daniel's gaze. Their mother looked down at her lap, clearly embarrassed. Their father, however, remained quiet and watchful, his brows knitted, but his lips sealed. Daniel could feel his face burning. His hands curled into fists beneath the tablecloth. He wanted to speak, to defend himself, to shout that none of this was fair. But something held him back. Perhaps shock, perhaps the sheer disbelief that the woman he loved had chosen this moment to strip away his dignity. Sophia leaned back in her chair, crossing her arms smugly. "He doesn't listen, he doesn't care, and he doesn't change. I've carried this marriage on my shoulders while he drags me down, and I'm tired of pretending. Maybe tonight will open his eyes." Daniel's throat felt dry. His stomach churned, not from the food, but from the humiliation that was tightening around him like chains. The people he respected, the family he wanted to feel connected to, were all witnessing his private struggles paraded like dirty laundry. The tension was suffocating. The clatter of silverware had ceased, replaced by an aching silence. Every heartbeat pounded in Daniel's ears. He knew he couldn't sit still much longer. Something inside him, an anger buried under years of patience, was beginning to stir, and though Sophia didn't know it yet, her performance was pushing him to the edge of a decision that would turn the evening upside down. Daniel's patience, stretched to its breaking point, finally snapped. For too long he had swallowed the bitterness, endured the complaints, and told himself that silence was the wiser path. But this public humiliation in front of her entire family was the final blow. Slowly he pushed his chair back. The wooden legs scraped against the floor, the sound slicing through the suffocating silence. Every head turned toward him. Sophia smirked, mistaking his movement for surrender, as if expecting him to apologize in front of everyone. He rose to his full height, shoulders squared, eyes steady. His voice, calm yet edged with steel, filled the room. "Sophia," he began, "you've spent this evening listing every mistake I've ever made, every flaw you could dig up. You've tried to paint me as careless, thoughtless, and unworthy. But let me tell you something. The truth is, my greatest mistake wasn't forgetting a birthday or leaving dishes unwashed. My greatest mistake was marrying you." The words hit like a thunderclap. Clara gasped, her hand flying to her mouth. Ethan froze, eyes wide, fork suspended mid-air. Their mother's face drained of color, and for the first time that night, Sophia's confident expression shattered. Her lips trembled as she tried to laugh it off. "Oh, come on, Daniel. You can't be serious." But Daniel didn't waver. His gaze never left hers. "You think humiliating your husband in front of your family makes you strong. It doesn't. It makes you cruel. Respect is the foundation of love, Sophia. And tonight you showed me exactly how little respect you have." The room grew unbearably quiet. Even the candles seemed to flicker lower, as if acknowledging the weight of his words. Then, breaking the silence, a deep voice spoke. It was her father. He leaned forward, his weathered hands folded on the table, eyes steady on his daughter. "He's right." The statement landed heavier than Daniel's own words. Sophia's head snapped toward her father, disbelief etched across her face. "Dad? How can you say that?" But her father remained unshaken. "Because no partner, no matter their faults, deserves to be torn apart in front of others. You may think you were proving a point, Sophia, but all you did was expose your own resentment. A marriage built on shame and ridicule is no marriage at all." Sophia's mouth opened to argue, but no words came. Her confidence, once so sharp, crumbled under the weight of her father's judgment. Tears brimmed in her eyes, and she shook her head in denial, unable to believe the man she trusted most had taken Daniel's side. Daniel, however, felt an unexpected calm. For the first time in years, he wasn't the one standing on trial. The truth was out, spoken not just by him, but by someone who mattered deeply to her. And that truth had cut deeper than any insult she had thrown his way. The silence that followed was almost unbearable. The ticking clock on the wall seemed louder than ever, marking each second that stretched like an eternity. Sophia's eyes darted around the table, searching for support. "Clara," she pleaded, "you know how hard it's been. You've heard me complain about Daniel before. You understand, don't you?" But Clara shifted uncomfortably, her gaze fixed on the tablecloth. "Sophia, I've heard you vent, yes. But this, doing it here in front of everyone, it doesn't feel fair. Marriage isn't supposed to be a public trial." Sophia's face crumpled. "Ethan, Mom?" Her voice cracked. Their mother sighed, her hand trembling as she reached for her glass of water. "Sweetheart, I don't agree with everything Daniel has done, but your father is right. A wife doesn't tear her husband apart in front of her family. Tonight, you crossed a line." Ethan finally spoke, his voice hesitant. "Honestly, Sophia, it was uncomfortable to sit through. It felt less like a dinner and more like a courtroom." Sophia's shoulders sagged as each voice turned against her. She stared at her father, desperation flickering in her eyes. "Dad, please. You can't really mean this. You're supposed to support me." But her father's expression remained stern, his voice steady. "Supporting you doesn't mean condoning cruelty. Respect must go both ways. If Daniel has flaws, you address them privately. You don't strip him of dignity in front of us. What you did tonight wasn't strength, it was spite." Sophia's lips quivered. Tears spilled over, streaking her carefully applied makeup. For the first time that evening, she was speechless. Daniel, standing tall, felt a strange mix of sadness and liberation. He hadn't wanted this. He hadn't wanted to expose their marriage in such a brutal way. But Sophia had forced his hand, and now the truth lay bare on the table, undeniable. The once cheerful dinner was in ruins, replaced by a heavy stillness no one knew how to break. Plates sat untouched. Candles flickered against faces lined with discomfort, and the weight of Sophia's actions pressed down on everyone like a storm cloud. Finally, Daniel spoke, his voice calm but resolute. "I don't need to argue anymore. My words stand. And tonight, so does the truth." He turned slightly, as if preparing to leave, the room holding its breath in anticipation of what would happen next. As Daniel stood there, gazing at the table where his dignity had been questioned and his patience tested, a strange calmness settled over him. The anger that had once boiled in his chest began to fade, replaced by something far more powerful: clarity. For years, he had convinced himself that love could survive without respect, that his silence in the face of Sophia's constant criticisms was a sign of strength. He told himself that staying quiet preserved peace, that enduring her sharp words was the price of marriage. But tonight had torn that illusion apart. Sophia's public humiliation had not only stripped him of pride, but also stripped their marriage of its foundation. What was a partnership without mutual respect? What was love if it became a weapon used to belittle rather than build? He thought of all the times he had worked late, not to neglect her, but to provide a better life. All the birthdays he had tried to make special, even if imperfect. All the small efforts she had dismissed, choosing instead to highlight his shortcomings. He realized now it was never about the mistakes. It was about control, about her need to elevate herself by cutting him down. The more he reflected, the lighter he felt. Every harsh word she had spoken tonight was no longer a chain binding him. It was a key unlocking the truth. He wasn't the failure she had tried to portray. He was a man who had given what he could, and though imperfect, he deserved dignity. Daniel glanced at Sophia, her face streaked with tears, her confidence shattered. For the first time, he didn't feel the urge to comfort her. He didn't feel guilt or shame. What he felt was freedom. He understood something crystal clear. Sometimes, walking away wasn't weakness. It was the bravest choice a person could make. Tonight wasn't about revenge. It wasn't about winning. It was about reclaiming his self-respect. With that realization, Daniel straightened his back, his voice calm but final. Sophia, I don't hate you, but after tonight, I see you differently, and I see myself differently too. Love without respect is hollow, and I refuse to live in a hollow marriage. The words weren't shouted. They didn't need to be. They carried the quiet strength of a man who had finally chosen himself. Daniel slid his chair back slowly, the wooden legs creaking against the floor. No one tried to stop him. The weight of his words and the truth they carried still lingered in the air, heavy and undeniable. Sophia sat trembling, her face pale, her eyes wet with regret. But Daniel no longer felt anger toward her. He simply felt done. His voice was calm, almost gentle, as he spoke his final words. I came here tonight thinking this would be a simple dinner. Instead, it became a lesson I'll never forget. Respect is not optional in love. It is the very root of it. Without respect, everything else crumbles. He turned to the rest of the family, giving a small nod of gratitude, especially to her father. Then, without another glance at Sophia, he walked toward the door. The house was silent. No footsteps followed him, no words chased him down. The only sound was the soft click of the door closing behind him. Outside, the night air was cool against his skin, and for the first time in years, Daniel felt lighter. The burden he had carried for so long was gone. His marriage may have been broken, but his spirit was no longer trapped. As he walked into the quiet night, one truth echoed in his heart. Sometimes the greatest act of love is not holding on, but letting go. And that was Daniel's story, a painful evening that turned into a powerful lesson about love and respect. What about you? If you were in Daniel's place, facing public humiliation from the person you trusted most, would you forgive and try again, or would you walk away to protect your dignity? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. I'd love to hear your perspective. And before you go, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, like this video, and share it with friends who enjoy stories with deep lessons and emotional twists. Your support keeps us going.